Hello again, and welcome to the Castle Old Skull Hawk Moor project, where we explore the deepest roots of Dungeons & Dragons in search of greater understanding and forgotten details that we can use to move forward into the future of old-school-inspired game design. The Hawk Moor project celebrates the world of GREYHAWK, as created by Gary Gygax, as well as the world of Blackmoor, as created by Dave Arneson, and all of their gaming friends and co-creators. If you enjoy Hawk Moor and you want to keep me around on YouTube, please like, comment, share, save, and subscribe. Today, we are going to delve into some secret GREYHAWK and monster lore. We are going to begin our exploration of one of Gary Gygax's finest adventures, Dungeon Module G3, Hall of the Fire Giant King. King Snur and the Dark Elves are ready and waiting for us. There is no backing down. So prepare yourselves, ready your blades, memorize your spells, and let's go to Muspelheim, the kingdom of the fire giants. For as we read in the Prose Edda, a good bridge is Bifrost, but nothing in this world is of such nature that it may be relied upon when the sons of Muspelheim go a-harrying. For devotees of Gygaxian world-building and the foundations of GREYHAWK, 1978 was surely one of the finest representative years of Gary Gygax's creative powers. In that year, he, along with many other TSR staff and contributors, created the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook, as well as much of the draft for the Referee's Guide, renamed later that year as the Dungeon Master's Guide. He also wrote many adventure modules in that year, including the Tomb of Horrors, the Giant Trilogy, and the Drow Trilogy, all in just a few months. Each of these works is monumental in its own way, ensuring that Dungeons & Dragons would stand as the exemplary expression of fantasy in gaming for at least another 50 years. In my opinion, G3 is the most important dungeon module in the history of Dungeons & Dragons. It closes out the first major adventure arc while simultaneously opening the next major epic, which develops the underworld into a unique setting that looms far beneath the deepest dungeons down to the Sunless Sea. G3 also introduces one of the most popular unique races in the game, the Drow, and includes the most iconic monster of 1970s D&D, an ancient red dragon patterned directly after Bilbo Baggins' encounter with Smaug under the Lonely Mountain. Gygax's fire giants are patterned after the Eldjotnar of Norse mythology. They are the foes of men and elves and dwarves. They are the sons of Muspelheim, the children of the great Surtur, and together they dwell in Muspel, the volcanic realm of eternal fire. And as we read in the Prose Edda, yet first was the world in the southern region, which was named Muspel. It is light and hot. That region is glowing and burning and impassable to such as are outlanders who have not their holdings there. He who sits there at the land's end to defend that land is called Surtur. He brandishes a flaming sword, and at the end of the world he shall go forth and harry, and overcome all the gods, and burn all the world down with fire. And also, as we can read in the excellent 1920 tome entitled The Children of Odin, The Book of Northern Myths by Patrick Collum, he saw Muspelheim, where stood Surtur with the flaming sword, a terrible figure who would one day join the giants in their war against the gods. And when he turned north, he heard the roaring of the cauldron Hvergelmir as it poured itself out of Niflheim. that place of darkness and dread. Gary's description of Greyhawk's domain of Muspelheim is also derived from The Roaring Trumpet of 1940, that book by two of his favorite authors, L. Sprague de Camp and Fletcher Pratt. There, Muspelheim is a black and broken plain, covered with smoking volcanic cones and gashed fissures cleaving through heated rock. In the text of The Roaring Trumpet, we read this: "They were in a countryside of a type totally unfamiliar to Harold Shea. A boundless domain of tumbled black rock rose here and there to cones of varying size. Some of these cones smoked, and little pinions of steam wafted from cracks in the basalt. They had slowed down to a fast trot, the horses picking their way over the ropey bands of old lava flows. Now and again, one or more fire giants would detach themselves from the party and set off on a tangent to the main course. Finally, a score of the fire giants clustered around, making towards a particularly large cone, from whose flanks a number of smoke plumes rose up through the drizzle." The fire giants here are only glancingly described in Norse mythology. Harold Shea tells us that they have black and red-hued hair and dark eyes like obsidian, and they are bestial in their movements. And what of their konungr, their king? King Snur Ironbelly is named after Snorri Sturluson, who gathered the pages of the Prose Edda centuries ago. He is the guardian of Gary's Muspelheim of the Fire Giants, as well as Niflheim below, where the dark elven drow domains brood. In The Roaring Trumpet, we hear that King Snur's elder inspiration, Lord Surtur, is bold, cunning, and taunting, with massive muscles and broad body, a giant dwarf. And this is the description that Gary would use in the Monster Manual of late 1977, when he described fire giants overall as, quote, "very broad, about 6 feet at the shoulders, looking almost like dwarves. Their skins are coal black. Their hair is flaming red or bright orange, and their eyes are deep red. Their teeth are usually yellow-orange. They wear armor or dragon hides." King Snur's name Ironbelly, by the way, would be something like Jarnkvithir in the Old Norse tongue. The Vikings and the Norsemen rarely used family names, and often they gave each other darkly humorous, distinguishing nicknames of muted respect. For example, a powerful warrior with a red beard and mustache might well be titled Blar, meaning the blue, by his rivals and also his friends. King Snur is very powerful, having been king for at least a quarter century. He is clad in the armored hide of a white dragon which he has slain. He probably killed it himself on the edge of the Crystal Mist Mountains. But he does have his weaknesses. Gary says that King Snur is known to be far stronger than smart, which was probably the initial giveaway that the masterful raids of the giants were actually being planned by a more mysterious secret source. This also tells us that the secretive drow high priestess, Eclavdra, probably manipulated this King Snur quite easily with a huge treasure bribe, a display of power, a death threat, or possibly all three. And why did the drow arise in this exact place? For that, we need to consider Eclavdra as well as Norse mythology to get some answers. Eclavdra certainly, as a priestess of the chaotic elements, was indeed aware that the giants had built their great hall above an ancient temple of evil sacrifice. Perhaps she showed King Snur as well that she held the true power of the elder elemental god, with her mastery of the magical tentacle rods. This might well be why even the mighty King Snur felt it was necessary to kneel to the power of the drow and to follow Eclovdra's scheme against men and dwarves and elves of light, perhaps as a prelude to the ultimate slaughter of Ragnarok. Reading Gary Gygax's lore carefully, we also learn that King Snur is indeed a superstitious sort, because he secretly keeps divination runes, non-magical, which he consults whenever he is making decisions. And certainly, Gary also tells us that the fire giants are more afraid of the drow than they are of the adventurers, to the point that they will fight to the death against the heroes. To the fire giants, the drow might well represent the return of an ancient order when the dark children of the demons fled into the underworld, vowing to return in future centuries with dire wrath and arcane powers beyond compare. Do the fire giants know much more about the drow, their weird temples, and the ancient elder elemental god than any humans do? Most assuredly they do. One of the interesting things about Dungeon Module G3 is that the players fully expect the adventurer to be all about fire giants, and it is, at first. But as they delve deeper, they learn the true nature of the secret enemies who are organizing the fire giants' raids, and they discover another terrible secret, this ancient temple where the tentacled Elder Ones are worshipped through human and elven sacrifice. Gary decided to use the Dark Elves, these Dok Alfar of Norse myth, perhaps because they were briefly featured as the dwarf-like Svart Alfar in the nether smithy scene of the Roaring Trumpet. There is a myth-inspired list of other worlds in that tale, which includes the Giants' realms and also the realms of Hell and the Underworld. This likely led to a quite logical design approach of featuring the Dark Elven Netherworld in a sequel series following after the exploration of Snur's deepest secret treasure dungeon and secret vaults. Other Gygax favorite authors explored this Norse idea of the underworld being ruled by the Elves of Shadow. For example, in Chapter 5 of Margaret St. Clair's The Shadow People of 1969, we learn that hallucinogenic shadow elves rule the underworld and seek to overthrow humankind above. In a more modern representation, younger players might believe that Gygax was thinking in the same vein as the film Thor: The Dark World, Marvel film 2013, in which the Asgardians vie against the dark elf Lord Malekith and his minions. And they would be right, of course, from a certain point of view. All of these tales harken back to Snorri's Prose Edda, however, and so it makes for a fine tribute when the leader of all the giants is given a worthy name that acknowledges this debt of inspirations. Snur is not just the king of the fire giants, he is also the gatekeeper of the deeps, and the guardian of dark secrets, and the only one worthy of controlling him is the mythic heiress of death and hell, Eclovdra herself. We will discuss the fire giants and the drow more in future episodes of Hawk Moor. But for now, I believe that's enough Dungeons & Dragons history lore for tonight. In our next deep dive into the lore of the fire giants and the drow, we will begin unlocking the secrets of the Great Hall itself, as well as the Fury dungeons down below. That is all I have for you for now. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to check out the comments for a list of any Hawk Moor videos you might have missed so far. Enjoy your gaming, and take care. I'll see you next time.